Welcome to PROCAD's SpoolCAD supporting module tutorials. Watch the entire video or use the on-screen table of contents to skip to a specific topic. The Shop Settings Manager tutorial covers the following topics: Fabrication Settings, Weld Lists, Weld Counts, Labor Codes, and ImportExport. Let's begin. Double-click the Shop Settings Manager icon to start the application. Our first topic is Fabrication Settings. In the Shop Settings Manager dialog, we see the English and the metric standards, which come with the software English in feet and inches and metric in millimeters. Our Twin Lakes project, which is in English units, was created for the demos and the tutorials. Double-click the Twin Lakes project to open the details. Under the Fabrication Settings, we see General Settings. We can apply the weld gaps. We have all welded components, no weld gaps, or pipe only. Select the option required. Under the Weld ID tags, we can set either alphabetical or numerical. We can omit letters I and O, for example. The weld tag shape can be set to circular, square, diamond, hexagon, or triangular. Weld tag leader line has no leader line, or we can draw a leader line to the weld. We can then set our pipe end preparation for beveled end, butt welded pipe end, socket weld, and threaded end. We can also set, as a general parameter, the stub in cut back dimensions, shown both in English and metric units. We can also set the weights, material weight list, for all of the components available within the SpoolCAD. We'll take a look at our 90-degree butt welded long radius elbows as a sample. All pipe sizes are shown and weights are set accordingly. For carbon steel, stainless steel. Adjust the tables and values. We can set the weld gap table based on a per pipe size basis for butt welded and socket weld components. Weld gaps can be added to the system. Set our size to say 4 inch, put in a value of 0.125 and add the butt weld gap, and it is now at 1/8 of an inch. And it automatically increases the pipe size. So we can quickly add all the way up to 24 inch. If we require it for the socket weld, we can reset our size to 1/8 of an inch, set our value at 1/16 of an inch, and add this to our socket weld. It increases all the way up to, say, 2 inch. Very easy to do. At any time, click Apply to save the changes. Our last fabrication setting to take a look at are our pipe end types. And we can take a look at all the values for the abbreviations. If we require more, we can add them in and we can delete them. Our next topic is Weld Lists. Under our Twin Lakes project, if we double-click the Weld List configuration, it brings up the Weld List and what it would look like in the AutoCAD drawing. So we can set our font for the Weld List, and for the values within the Weld List, we can set those simply by selecting the font button, setting the font, the style, and the size. See a sample below. Select OK to apply. Underneath, we can see the tables. We can adjust the columns within the weld list. When we click on the test column, it actually shows up as 3 smaller columns, NDE type to sign off, and the date welded. We can justify and insert columns. We can insert, for instance, X-ray number, the weld type, schedule, the size, or custom field testing column. Totally customizable. Let's add the X-ray number. X-ray number comes in and we can size it up. To save changes, click Apply Column Changes. To save changes to the overall configuration, click Apply. We can look at the Weld List CAD options. Shows the size, the width of our list, and the height of our table. If there's more than one column, we can set a column spacing of, say, 1 inch and apply. To see a preview of our table, select the Weld List Preview. It shows our Weld ID, the Welder ID, as well as our newly input column for the X-ray number, and then our testing, the NDE type, the sign-off, and the date welded. Our next topic is Weld Counts. Similar to our Weld List configuration, we have a Weld Count configuration for our project. Again, we can set the font size for our titles. As well, we can set what we'd like in our columns as far as the width of the columns. We can set the justification of the text within the columns, and we can also insert. So if we need to insert a new user custom field, we can give it a name. We can adjust the size of that column. We can move it to whatever location we need just by clicking and dragging, and then apply column changes, and then click apply to save. We have a Weld Count CAD option as well, and we can adjust the sizes, click apply, and finally the Weld Count preview, and we can look at a preview of what the chart would look like when it is inserted into the drawing. Our next topic is labor codes. Labor codes allow us to attach labor costs to welds and pipe components for cost estimating the fabrication of the spool. The output format is saved in spreadsheet format. Let's look at the labor code groups and the labor code libraries. Under the labor code pull-down, we can select the labor code groups. The default groups that come with the software are the butt weld, miscellaneous OLED, pipe, and socket weld. New groups can be added for organization of the labor codes. Give a group name, enter a description, click add, and we now have a new group. Be sure to click apply to save changes. Under the labor code library, we can then create all of the labor codes based on those groups. So there's our butt weld, there's our new created category, HPF, the pipe, etc. Simply select the code group you would like to build a labor code in, and then add a labor code. Add a description, click add, and we now have a new code added to that grouping. Click apply to save changes. Any number of labor codes can be added to the grouping. Let's look at some of the labor codes information that can be set within SpoolCAD. We can set material abbreviations to minimize the use of decimal points. Same with schedule abbreviations to remove the decimal points. We also have our labor code format for the welds. So this is how it will show up in our spreadsheet, and will be sorted by the pipe size, then the schedule, then the material, then the labor code. Easily to move up and down, the sequence, the order, and we can see the sample output down below. When we make changes, select apply. We have labor codes for the pipe and pipe components. Same thing, we have the pipe size, the schedule, material, and labor code. Sample shown below, as well the size can be set to either the English or metric units. And finally, we have auto-include labor codes, where we can actually set up some automatically included codes when we input the components in the SpoolCAD drawing. So under the pipe component, for instance, we have one pipe cut, a labor code, just a count of one, meaning that when we have a piece of pipe, there at least has to be a pipe cut to an exact length. Under the butt welds, we can see that we have a butt weld labor, so there's at least one weld going to be added automatically. And to add more, we can click on the Lookout tab. We can search our library under the butt welded labor codes, find all the codes that would be applicable to the particular weld, and add it, setting a weld count, say, of 1, and click add. We now have butt weld as well as 80% X-ray going to be added from our labor codes. So let's look at this in action. In our SpoolCAD drawing, once we have completed our weld list, and we have our weld ID items for each of the welds, we can then run the labor codes. Select the Fabrication tab, select the Labor Cost Code tool. It allows us to select more than one drawing. We'll take the current drawing for our sample, and all of our welds appear. We can give our username, the date, revision, and the drawing number that was extracted from comes up by default. And then we have all of our welds. So you'll see now each of the welds has a standard butt weld as well as an 80% X-ray. Whatever codes were set will now show up on each of the welds automatically. When we look at the pipe category, we can see our cut that was automatically included. As well, we also have 2 beveled pipe ends, which would be the preparation portion of the fabrication. 2 options at the bottom. We can export automatically to our spreadsheet, or we can save a file, a labor cost code file, for later processing. We'll do both. We'll save first to a labor cost code. We'll give it a file name. I'll just use the drawing name. Save it to the desktop. And then we can use the export feature, which will create the spreadsheet. Do you wish to separate labor cost codes by drawing? We can say yes. We'll give it a name. I'll just use the drawing name. Click Save. And then we can close out. Let's take a look at the files that were created. Minimize our SpoolCAD drawing. There are 2 files that are created. We have our LCC file and our spreadsheet file. Let's look at the spreadsheet file. Double-click the icon to open the file. And we see our labor codes, the descriptions, the count, and the drawing that it was extracted from. All of this extracted from the weld information placed in the SpoolCAD drawing. Our last topic in the tutorial is the import-export. Once we have set our Shop Settings Manager, set all of our values, all of our parameters, we can then export the settings to save as a backup or to give to another client or in a standalone setup to install on another computer. Select Export, give it a file name. We'll just save it to our desktop, call it Twin Lakes Project, change the name to December, click Save, and our file is exported. Take a look at it, and we now have a Twin Lakes project file created. To import the file, click on our standard and click Import Settings. Search and find the file that we would like to import and click Open. The file is now imported. It can then be manipulated or changed if need be. Easy to do. This concludes the topics covered in the Shop Settings Manager tutorial. Review the topics in this module or select another module.